Your brain's 3 favorite shortcuts. Did you know your brain takes shortcuts when handling information? This video is going to cover those 3 main shortcuts, how they matter in NLP and hypnosis. Let's talk about it, Mike.
Right. In the field of NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming, we have 3 main shortcuts, and they're called Generalization, Distortion, and Deletion. So let's discuss them.
All right, so first let's talk about the definition of what these are, the brain's 3 major shortcuts: deletion, generalization, distortion. We'll also talk about the importance of understanding them, and maybe some positive and negative aspects
of them,
how they apply in life. Let's start with generalization.
Okay,
Mike.
well, what's our definition? Generalization is drawing sweeping conclusions based on generalizing previous insights or experiences. Like when you go to open a door. Now, you have a way of opening doors without having to think about it every time. There's a doorknob usually, or a handle.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
Pattern match.
Now,
it's a door handle.
You don't look at it new each time and go, oh, there's a door handle, but it's on the left this time. Gee, I wonder how I'm going to get through. Maybe I should take the hinges off the door. No.
This one's made out of glass.
It maps across. We have a generalization. It's going to be a doorknob or a door handle. There might be a key required, but we know how to get through doors without thinking about it. It's become a shortcut.
All right, so that's like a funny example. Now, let's think of real-life examples of generalization. You could imagine somebody who had a negative experience maybe around dogs.
Okay, like bitten by one or something.
Yeah, maybe they were bitten, or maybe they were just riding their bike when they were a kid. I think this happened to me once. I was riding my bike and a dog starts chasing
That's scary.
me. Now, thankfully, that did not end up with me making a generalization that all dogs are bad and all
scary
dogs
or
are
dangerous.
scary or anything like that. But that can happen, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So people who do have that kind of generalization may wind up frightened of dogs. It can become a fear or even a phobia in some cases.
And generalizations are shortcuts for us to speed up and simplify our decision-making and our thinking, right?
Well, yeah, because if you have a program in place, it's going to sort for you automatically without you having to do it consciously.
Yeah, it's kind of like your brain doesn't have to be taxed all the time with you consciously evaluating, is this specific situation different than the other? Most of the time, generalizations actually help us and save us time,
For
but
sure.
they can kind of screw us up, can't they? So,
well, yeah, if we generalize a negative thing, that doesn't necessarily have to apply, but they can be good too. Like my wife and I go to a certain restaurant every Friday night or every Saturday night. We don't have to think each week, oh, wonder where we're going to go. Let's go online.
Is it still
we
a good
generalize
restaurant?
that that's a good restaurant to go to.
So I think we've covered off where it can be helpful in life. It can solve that taxation
It can be a resource.
problem.
Yep.
Where can it be a problem?
Well, it can be a problem in things like racism. You know, say a Martian treats you
This is a good
badly,
example.
and you draw this generalization that all Martians are evil and can't be trusted.
Yeah. So, or if you have a bad experience with a police officer, and then like we have some friends that think all cops are evil.
Yeah, don't talk to cops.
It's like, well, wait a second. What about awesome cops that we know? Because we know lots. And it's like, no, it's not a useful generalization in all these situations. So sometimes it pollutes your brain and
it becomes a liability.
Yeah. And now we're not going to have a lot of time to talk about all of this, but in the field of hypnosis and NLP, if you discover a negative generalization, how can you help it? How can you handle it?
Well, you can challenge it. The person, he always makes me mad. And you question the generalization, say, always? Every single time? Well, no, not every time. Questioning the generalization is a great way to break through.
Or you could use metaphor. You could perhaps tell a story about your own life that paints the same picture where it deconstructs that generalization in the person's mind. They go, so unconsciously they learn something like, oh, this isn't actually always true. So that can be another way to handle it.
Absolutely.
All right. Should we move on to deletion?
Let's go to deletion.
All right. What is deletion?
Well, a person who focuses on the positive aspects of a past relationship is doing deletion here because they're choosing to forget all the negative stuff that maybe that's why they broke up in the first place. Deletion selectively removes certain aspects of a belief or an experience.
So in a past relationship, somebody could be like, oh yeah, it's too bad that relationship's over. I wish I had her back because she was great in this way and that way. And you're deleting like that she was horrendously verbally abusive to you, let's say.
Could be that,
or whatever the case may be.
We delete all the time. And even just the amount of information that's coming into our brains at any given moment, millions of bits of information, we couldn't handle all that if we had to consciously think of it. So we make a habit of deleting a lot of stuff and pushing it into the background when it's too much to deal with, which is pretty well all the time.
Yeah, and again, it's sort of one of these things, like it relates to that George Miller 7 plus or minus 2 conscious bits of information, not directly, but the idea that if we had to process everything, we'd go nuts. So
right, and especially without generalizations as well.
Yeah,
so we spend too much time on everything.
We generalize things, and then we delete the things that don't seem as relevant. We should be, the whole point of the shortcut is so that the brain is focusing on the things that do matter the most.
Oh, sure.
But if you do it wrong, then all of a sudden you're deleting stuff and it's screwing up your life.
Oh, this is interesting. This also fits in, we haven't planned this, but this fits into the pattern called boy looking.
Oh, yeah.
When I used to be on CBC television for 2 seasons, we talked about this very thing. Jennifer, who was the therapist that I was on with at the time, she said, men boy look. And I said, what do you mean? She said, if they open the fridge, there isn't any mustard in the
Where's
fridge.
the mustard?
Look again. There isn't any in there. Are you looking or are you boy looking? We're deleting it, even though it's
Honey,
there.
where are my keys? They're on the table. I already checked. Were you looking or were you boy looking?
Remember my dad, I said, was looking for his car keys. He had them in his hand.
Yeah.
And he was going in his pockets,
all done that.
actually changing hand to hand to search all his pockets.
Wait a second. We haven't all done that because I don't know what a car key is, Mike.
Oh, shut up. You got a Tesla.
Yeah.
So
this is my car key.
This is deletion.
It's called an iPhone.
So this can help us maintain a positive outlook and reduce stress, but it can be a problem as well if we're deleting vast parts of our experience that we need to know to deal with situations.
Which now people can say, oh, my life is horrible, and they're deleting they're focused only on the things that are bad, and they're deleting from their awareness all the opportunities. So as a therapist or an NLP practitioner, hypnotist, you need to help unlock resources for your clients so that they're not actually shining that flashlight of consciousness on.
Right. We can be willingly blind about things that are unpleasant as well. I've got a friend who's going through some real financial difficulties, and he seems to be absolutely unaware of the fact that the people he's working with are scamming him and ripping him off. But he won't look at that.
No, it's not me, no.
But he won't look at it. He's managed to delete that from his awareness so that he can still maintain his normal daily life.
Which is harming his life. So as a therapist, if you can recognize this stuff and draw it out, and people will dismiss it like, well, no, it's not. They'll say it, but then they'll dismiss it and go, well, that's not the real reason.
Right.
Guess what? They're probably lying to themselves.
Right. So we can end this part on deletion by saying a great question for yourself is, what am I missing in this situation, or what are my blind spots?
That's where empowering questions can come in too, right? Which we have a video on, and we'll probably link in the description to our video on empowering questions. And if we don't have one, because I think we do, we'll make one next.
One, damn it. So leads us to distortion.
Distortion, the third brain hack. So what is a distortion, Mike?
Well, it's changing the information that's coming in, changing it in some way. It can be tied into deletion. We may be selectively deleting parts of something to distort it, but it's a useful thing too. There's the person who receives compliments from other people and perceives them as being genuine and uplifting, even if the person isn't intending it that way.
Sort of like, oh, nice haircut.
Yeah, and you're being sarcastic, and they go, thanks. Now, that's distortion of the meaning behind it. But the real-world example that you see fairly often is in fields like a sculptor will take a block of marble. They can see the statue inside it in advance and then chip away everything that isn't the statue. Or a civil engineer looks at an enormous chasm and he sees the bridge that he's going to create that will encompass that bridge and all the space there.
Or
that will encompass the space.
I mean, I suppose the same thing would be true of, let's say, a composer. He could, in his mind, look at a blank sheet of paper,
and turn it into a sheet,
and imagine what's going to be written upon it. Music, let's say, or somebody's life. Right? Your life is going a certain way. You have to distort reality because reality is not what you want to have happen necessarily. You have to distort that image or that imagination of whatever it is. I guess imagination doesn't have to be visual. You have to distort in order to perceive what's possible.
Right. You just made me think about the whole aspect of people who catastrophize routinely.
Yes. Oh, they're distorting in a negative way.
Oh, I know he's just going to do this. This is all going to go bad. This is going to go off the rails. They're distorting in a negative way. So again, we have another aspect of the whole distortion being something that can be problematic, or it can be a resource depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, I was just thinking distortion could be thought of as inventing. You can invent good, you can invent bad, you can catastrophize, you're inventing stories, distorting reality, or you can invent. So the question, again, empowering question, what kind of reality do you want to invent and maybe distort your life in that way? That would be much more useful, right? So, all right, let's wrap up this video then.
Okay, so we've got the three things: generalization, deletion, distortion. These are all ways we process information to help us make sense of the world logically, easily, and effortlessly, but they can go off the rails if they're used in the wrong way.
All right, so those are your shortcuts. It's important to be aware of these shortcuts and find a balance between the positive and the negative aspects of them. And if you want to learn more about this, one of the things you could do is you could check out our course, the NLP Essentials course. It's on our website. We'll put a link in the description. By the way, that course, NLP Essentials, is also included, if you're a serious student, in our Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy lifetime membership, which we'll also put a link to. And that's a wrap, buddy.
It is. Thanks again.
And good night.